we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever want to reach out to the podcast, hit us up either on our DMs on Instagram or Twitter at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast, or hit us up in the comments anywhere on our posts or on our videos on YouTube. If you're watching, you can watch on Spotify now, wherever you're listening or watching. Doing that and being here with us tonight is the best way you could possibly support the podcast, and I thank you for being here. If you did want to go that extra mile and check things out and, engage with us and like the posts and do all that fun stuff, that helps us even more. And then check out our Patreon too, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod, and there's a few different ways that you can help out there. So super fun. If you're a long-time watcher, a long-time listener, you might notice we're in some new digs here. Things are looking a little bit plain in the Bigmark studios right now, but that's only temporary. Like I said a couple podcasts ago, just kind of in the process of moving into the new studio, and going to be up at my girlfriend Kate's place, at her parents' place. Actually, that's where I am right now. So another. I think it's the fourth studio now, soon to be fifth. So anyway, super excited to be here. And I mean, that happens to be the topic of conversation today too. I mean, everyone loves that. I know I've done podcasts about moving before. And it's kind of one of those things where no matter what, when you're getting ready for it, you think, oh yeah, don't worry, I got all the time in the world. When your move out date is, especially when you get to choose it. It's not like someone, is kicking you out or whatever. But when you know the day, you kind of be like, okay, yeah, for sure. Like, I'll start to prepare. I got all this time. I can start making small trips, because I only really moved. I moved a bunch of my stuff over to Kate's place, and that was in Hamilton, so like 10-minute drive, but that sometimes almost makes it harder sometimes too, right? When it's like, oh yeah, it's easy to bring some stuff and you bring a couple boxes and but man, oh man, I completely underestimated how much stuff I had for sure. And it's kind of funny. It's one of these things where it's like, we actually, the biggest thing I will say, we tried to move a lot of things in bins, and it was definitely super helpful to have bins. My parents helped me out huge with bringing a bunch of bins, and they're excellent. But the problem is, unless you're like packing them to be like, all right, I'm going to put this away in storage for good, basically, or not for good, but like for long term. You pack it differently. You pack it, it could be a little bit heavy. You don't have to worry about moving it a bunch of times. But when you're using it as like a moving box, sometimes it's hard because you can't really pack a shit ton in it. It can only hold so much. And, you just kind of got to be careful about how much you can pack into it. So then you're also limited to the size of it. Obviously, you're limited to the size of cardboard boxes too. But at the same time, it's like, the tote itself is heavy, but they're great moving things. And again, like I said, they're great for storage, which I need a little bit of storage right now. And that's honestly one of the best parts about this move is that, I didn't really get a chance. A lot of the stuff I had, I didn't really get a chance to put it aside, leave it in a place where I could go through it. I mean, when I moved into my parents' place, I was looking after their place, a few years ago, and it was a whole house. I felt like, oh yeah, for sure, you can kind of like you can have all this stuff and you can kind of fill in the voids and all this stuff. And then from there, I moved into my other apartment, which was like pretty small, and it didn't really have that much storage. So even some of my stuff is kind of dispersed over a couple other houses too, which is insane. But again, you kind of amass all this stuff over the years, and I'm not necessarily one to throw things out. Right? I wouldn't call myself a hoarder. But this move was definitely a big kind of like eye opener of like, wow, like most of this stuff was in storage, and I lasted a couple years basically never even thinking about it, never even being like, oh, I mean, I have to admit there was a couple kitchen items where I was like, ah, fuck, I wish I had that. So those are still around. But there's a lot of other stuff where I was like, I wasn't really missing it. So, or there's duplicates, or who knows now, right? So once you kind of join forces with somebody else too, like obviously you can kind of go through your stuff and figure out what's what, and what do you want to keep, what's the better thing of the duplicates, right? So that is the ultimate goal too, right? Is to eventually move in with Kate, which is going to be a big step, and super excited about that. But that's going to be officially kind of in October-ish. At the time of the filming of this podcast, it is Thursday, June 4th, 2026. So, we still got the summer, and yeah, it's going to be super fun. So, like I said before in the other podcast, I talked about moving. I did work as a mover one summer. I had a lot of fun. It's actually one of my favorite summer jobs I ever had. I look back on it fondly, and I always reference it when I'm thinking about when a job is hard. It's only made harder by the people you work with. So a job can be great if you work with great people, no matter what the actual work is, truly. But if the work is easy and the people are easy, it's the best. But sometimes I find if the work is easy, you start finding things to be mad about, or things to not get along about. But like I said, I was a mover for a summer, but I was an international mover, so a little bit different than your kind of standard local mover. Obviously, your standard local mover sometimes has to move the same thing twice in the same day. I mean, often has to move the same thing twice in the same day. I know that sometimes they can like park their trucks overnight, or like they have like some way of storing their stuff safely overnight, or if it has to drive a little bit further than within town, I think that they can do something with that. But when I worked for this company called Crown Relocations, we had like a big warehouse where we did have some like very long-term storage, like basically like almost like public storage, but you just wouldn't have the same access to it. You wouldn't be able to get to it all the time, like you would with like those public storage, or those like $1 a month storage locker places that you can access. And we called them vaults, but they were these big wooden things that you could like keep your stuff in when you were like out of the country, gone. So like you were only going to need that when you move back. So again, we dealt with people that were moving away, or moving to Canada, moving to another country, or to from another country to Canada. And there was always a Crown Relocations in that other country that was sending it, or we were sending it to another Crown Relocations. Essentially, all we ever had to do was just pack a shipping container or unpack a shipping container. So usually when you had to lift something, pick it up, put it down, that was it. That was really the only time you ever had to lift it. You never saw it again. It was on a shipping container and it was gone. But again, the crew was great, and I learned a ton of stuff when it comes to moving. Now, one of the biggest things that made that moving gig so fun and so easy was the fact that the crew was great. Like I said, and I mentioned, obviously everyone got along, but everyone played by the same rules. Everyone kind of was trained the same way. So it made communication pretty easy when it came to actually moving things. Essentially, like, a lot of the job you did work on your own. Like, you'd enter a house. The ultimate package would be like, let's say you and your family are moving. You hire us. We tell you pack anything that's valuable, like your passports or anything you don't want us to see. Like, nefarious, dildos, or like, some like sexy pictures and stuff, which both were found over the time of my tenure there. because people can't fucking look through everything, and especially when your basement is like basically a hoarder basement. That was one of the worst ones. Anyway, just as an aside, one of the worst jobs we ever had was we had to go into we had to full pack this whole house, that their basement room was basically like a hoarder situation. You couldn't walk through it. There was stuff up to the walls. It was fully packed, and we had to pack it all into boxes and stuff. So anyway, that was how it went. You would go into a house, and let's say there were 5 rooms in the house, and you had a crew of 5 guys. One guy goes to each room, and you just bring boxes and you start packing. And that was one of the biggest things that was great, is that you had three standard sizes for the boxes. There was a kind of a small, medium, and large. And it gave you, it was like all you could really work with. And you kind of knew like really heavy stuff went in the smallest, and like, stuff that was perfectly shaped for the boxes, obviously. But like, you don't want to put a bunch of really heavy stuff in the biggest box. And you had packing paper and tape and like tape gun and like a couple tools of the trade too. But man, oh man, you could pack stuff away, and it was fun, like I said, and it made it easy when especially when you're like picking up a couch and doing all that. There's a way you can pick it up together, that if you both do it the same way, it's much easier. You don't have to talk about who's holding what. The weight is distributed properly between the two of you, and all that fun stuff. So that can happen when you're moving with your friends and family, but it's not always the same. Not everyone was trained at one point. And essentially, ideally, pack up every room first, obviously, before you start moving. Pack up every room, take all the boxes and put them against the walls. As you're packing, all the boxes go against the walls, so the floor is completely open. Any furniture in the house is also ready and packed up in the rooms. And then the way we would load one of the shipping containers is we'd have the most senior guy on the crew, who also did the kitchen as well. And packing up a kitchen's totally different, obviously because of breakables and other heavy stuff there. But regardless, on the pack days, we'd have the most senior guy in the shipping container, and he'd basically just start asking for different size boxes, or and he'd say like, so there are like two, the small, medium, large. He'd say, bring me some smalls, bring me some mediums. I need 2 more mediums. I need a large and the couch now. Bring me the couch, and now bring the couch. Now bring another bed. And he started just Tetrising everything into the shipping container as tight as possible. So, and again, this was for moving someone a long way. Like, I was packing stuff into these boxes as knowing that they were going to be in a box for a few weeks and just about to get opened again. But at the same time, it was going to go on a shipping container on the sea. So you couldn't really just do it too willy-nilly, so to speak. But regardless, those skills still kind of translate. I never seem to forget them. Even over the years I've moved, I was actually talking to my buddy B-Rye. Shout out B-Rye, talking about moving. And he's like, oh man, you must be an expert now. And I was like, well, technically was a professional at one point, but he's not wrong in the sense of I definitely know how to move the stuff I have. But yeah, I've moved, including university, over the last 10 years. I moved, 3 times, from residence to Coombs to Cherry Hill to Waterloo in London alone, and then back home to Ray Street, to Henry Street, to Balsam, then Naminab. So yeah, 9 times roughly, maybe a little bit less if you don't count all the times in university, because everyone moves in university. But yeah, 9 times I've been in and out of places with all my shit. So again, arguably there might be some stuff in there that might have been packed up for most of that time. I hope not. I don't think so. Not that bad. But over those 9 years, I've definitely accumulated some shit. And yeah, I know Kate was kind of a little overwhelmed by it, and I totally get it. But that's what I was saying before too. I'm super excited about getting into the stuff and really organizing it and really getting a chance, because essentially for the next month, a little bit less than, excuse me, I'll be at Kate's, and then just it gives me a chance to kind of get down there and and start going through the stuff and donate, and then we'll have a little bit of a garage sale, maybe sell some stuff, maybe make a little dough. Who knows, right? Like, I mean, especially in today's time, everyone's looking for a little bit of a deal and finding stuff on the cheap. So let's do that. You know what I'm saying? So again, really, really fun. Moving is always tough, though. One of the other things I underestimate is just how hard it is on the old bod. Like the day that we moved most of everything, I mean, essentially the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was going back and forth already from my place to Kate's. But once we got the U-Haul, got the old classic U-Haul, and started doing all that on Sunday, I think I put in almost 30,000 steps. I think I was like almost 28,000 steps on the old pedometer. So I was moving literally up and down, round and round. But again, super grateful, really looking forward to it. You know, I would always consider myself a cautious guy. Cautious, maybe a gracious word, I guess. But a lot of times, maybe, you know, I'm careful with some of the decisions. I don't know. Maybe that might sound as a surprise to some people, but in knowing Kate and everything we've been through so far, you know, it's only felt right. And there was a moment where one of the things, like I said, I'm a cautious kid, so like jumping off cliffs and roller coasters and speed and some stuff, it's not always been my bag. I enjoy sports and, you know, and that kind of thing, and camaraderie and having fun with the boys and stuff, but there's sometimes the shit doesn't feel right. But the times that I've actually done those things, again, I intellectualize that I don't think it's a good idea. But once I've actually done some of those things, I jumped off a cliff or gone on some roller coasters, I've always actually had fun. And maybe I've taken some of that as a lesson in life, and maybe I haven't. But I think for some reason lately that's really sunk in, and I had this kind of feeling of, oh man, like I'm about to jump into something here, and had that feeling of, oh, it's scary. But it was very, very quickly preceded by, that's a feeling that usually always winds up after I do the thing that I had that feeling before. I had that tense feeling of, you're about to do something, you're about to do something wild. Once I actually did it, almost every time, anytime I've done that, I have felt better. I felt relief. I have felt, oh my God, what was taking me so long to do it in the first place? What's this? What's that? All these feelings of not even self-loathing and negativity, just positive, like, wow, like, I can't believe it took me so long to do something like that. So I'm going to go with that feeling. I'm going to jump in with 2 feet, baby. So here we are. We'll see you next week. Hopefully a little bit more stuff on the walls, a little bit more stuff on the shelves, all the stuff that you know and love, all the tchotchkes that make up the Bigmark podcast studio. We got the sign at least. Shout out Scotty. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye. Love you.